close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
What's going on, guys? How you all doing? Welcome to this very late edition of a show. Joining me, making his debut. It's actually the first time you've been on this channel, but making his debut and losing his Daniel Bailey TV virginity is Mike from the Gooners Pod. How you doing, Mike?
If I could have lost my actual virginity to that song that you played in the intro, I mean, your voice, you wouldn't think it by sitting and talking to you, but your voice sounds incredible in that track.
Yeah. Considering that 8 Mile, I can't claim. Hey, listen, the amount of shows I do, and that gets flagged for copyright, and then gets released in the YouTube algorithms. It's absolutely mad. Absolutely insane.
I don't know. You sound great. I was really turned on. So.
Oh, that's mad. But yeah, listen, how are you doing, Mike? How's things going?
Oh man, for Arsenal wise, I mean, things are going well in general. Arsenal wise, it's an interesting time to be an Arsenal fan who pays attention to social media. I mean, it's hard to believe, if you're watching this, or if you're like Daniel and I, and we do this, as a hobby or for whatever, however we do it. It's hard to imagine that like 98% of Arsenal fans across the world don't pay as close attention to all this craziness as we do. And they're probably living a life of glee and joy and, wanting the team to play better than they are, as we all do, in recent weeks, but like not living and dying by every tweet, by every piece of news and stuff. And yet for us, it's like this roller coaster every day, and just so much frustration and anger and energy going back and forth. And, I love it and I hate it at the same time, man.
It is like that as well, isn't it? Because 90% of Arsenal fans don't get triggered, but the ones that do it for a living or do it as a hobby, get so triggered.
We're a very, very, very vocal minority. And we're a vocal minority at war with each other. So it's I mean, I wish I could say that this entire journey of podcasting and going over and becoming an artist, I wish I could say that it's all research for a book that I'm doing one day, that I'm just about like psychology and stuff. But no, I'm in this what do we call it? I'm in this this world that everyone lives in, and suffering as much as just about anybody. But
yeah, definitely. And just tell everybody who's not familiar with you and your channel, before we talk about all the all the transfers and or lack of transfers and Arsenal. Just tell everybody about your channel who's not familiar with your channel, and tell everyone about your crazy stream that you've just done.
Well, all right. So, thank you, Daniel. And about 5 years ago, actually almost 5.5 years ago, my co-host Andy, or my original co-host Andy, there have been others added since then, but came up with the idea of doing an Arsenal podcast. And at the time, there were maybe a dozen Arsenal podcasts, both verbal and or audio and video. I mean, you had Arsblog, you had Bergkamp Wonderland, you had Craig's version of Same Old Arsenal, and there were other smaller ones. But I already thought that there are too many Arsenal podcasts. Why the hell would we do one? This is in August of 2016. And so we decided we'd do a podcast from an American perspective, even though Andy is actually English, but he lives over here now. and just try to, not take everything so seriously. I've been an Arsenal fan since 1988 when I lived over in England as a teenager. So I've known the club, I've followed the club, but I don't claim to be, Mr. Football or Mr. Tactics or anything like that. So what have I got to add? Just a dumb sense of humor and the perspective of an Arsenal fan. So that's really kind of what our podcast is about. And over the years, it's grown not so much to be a large podcast, but to be kind of, I would say, an interesting one in the sense that we've had some amazing guests on our pod, some amazing exclusives. We've interviewed Josh Kroenke. We've done press and media for when the club came over in 2019. We've had many ex-players from Arsenal come on the podcast. We've had journalists, you name them, we've had them on the podcast. Just and commentators like Derek Ray and Ian Dark and all the voices that you normally hear on the Premier League and other broadcasts. So we've just had some real interesting content, and it's lighthearted and meant to be pretty pretty entertaining when we decide to podcast. So that's the Gooners podcast in a nutshell. You wanted me to talk about the one from tonight?
Yeah, and definitely just before you do that, it is when you interview the great guests. And listen, when I started this channel, I was like, that's my ambition, to interview great guests. And I've already had Fabrizio, Kevin Campbell, and Charles Watts under my belt. And it's like, I've only had this going for 2 years.
Yeah.
And before you tell everybody about your crazy stream tonight, just tell everybody about the most important thing and your baby, so to speak, with the Gooners versus Cancer, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean there's a time to be silly and the time to be serious about stuff. And the one, I lost my father 11 years ago to leukemia. He was in his mid 60s, and everyone that I know and everyone that anyone knows has been touched in some way, shape, or form. They've either had cancers, whether blood cancers or others. They've lost a parent. They've had a child. I get emails and DMs all the time. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I started a charity called Gooners versus Cancer, and that charity has grown pretty significantly with incredible participation from the Arsenal fan base, from the people at the club themselves donating items. There's an amazing piece that's I won't say on sale, but it's up for raffle right now on goonersvcancer.com, and it's just all the money goes directly to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. It doesn't even pass through my hands or anybody else's hands. It goes directly to them. But it's just a way to try to get the community involved in something positive, because Arsenal fans get, especially the ones on social media, tend to get a bad rap for being reactive and angry and spoiled and reactionary and all caps and bitching and complaining and fighting with each other. But my personal view is that there's a lot of generous people out there, and I try to do something that that gives the fan base a good name and raises money for a good cause. So it means a lot to me, Daniel, that you allow me to talk about that and you bring it up. And
absolutely. You know what, Mike, we've joked and we've bantered, and we have a lot of fun on these pods, but you're highlighting a serious issue that actually a lot of podcasters don't take the time to do that. And I think it's important that the word gets out there. And if people want to go and support the charity, how would they go about doing that?
It's easy. If you want to support it with a donation, you can go to goonersvcancer.com. And currently that page forwards you to the specific. We're kind of off season. The main campaign for Gooners v Cancer is usually during the summer. It starts just after the football season ends, and it usually goes through about September or early October. Right now we have, because we've been able to get to know people like Lee Dixon and Alan Smith and Michael Thomas, I came up with an idea to have a 1989 away jersey, the one that they wore, or a replica of the one that they wore when they won the league in Anfield, which was my era, my original era. And it's, the height of my Arsenal fandom, which was 32 years ago. But the the four people involved, Lucas Dixon, Smith, and Michael Thomas, in that order, all have signed the shirt with the famous call from Brian Moore of that date. And it's a one of a kind. It isn't available anywhere else. It was made specifically for Gooners versus Cancer. So that's what you'll see. And we're doing a raffle for that right now. But if you tune in at Gooners versus Cancer at any time of the year, you'll see what we have going on. There's great things going on. You follow Gooners v Cancer on Twitter, you'll get updates on what's going on there. And it's, we don't believe in just asking for money. We believe it should be fun. You should have a chance of winning something. We've got dozens and dozens and dozens of people over the years that have won kits signed by legends and incredible Arsenal tickets and really cool stuff that, if you don't get it, you've donated to a great cause. If you do get it, my goodness, you've got something really special. And we're trying to build that community, and anyone who wants to participate with their effort and with their time and with their fundraising skills, DM us. Our DMs are open. Yeah. You can slide right in there. And just got a DM from a supporters club in Cincinnati, Ohio today, and here in the States, who says, we want to do a fundraiser. We don't really have a cause, and we'd love to latch onto yours. And that's exactly the type of thing that we're looking for, because believe me, it makes my job easier, and we can supply you with all the back end and support and connections you need. So King Tony in the chat says it's up for grabs now. You should see this shirt. Go to GoonersVCancer.com. You're going to want that shirt.
Yeah, everybody go and check that out. Listen, I've got a great community here. Everybody go and check that out, and I'd really appreciate that. And Mike, if ever in the future you want to do a collab for your charity, I know you're big on charity streams. If you want to do a collab in the future and a fundraiser, I'm more than happy to do that, because I think what you're doing with your charity is fantastic. And like you said earlier, Arsenal fans get a lot of bad press for being reactionary, and what you're doing is actually something good. You're not just out there having bad reactions to the matches and stuff. You're actually taking the love of football and turning it into something good, and especially with something horrific as cancer, you're bringing the two together to be something positive.
Well, hey, Daniel, I appreciate that you've pretty much crystallized my entire approach. There's enough to make you upset about football. Let's create more things to make you happy about it and be part of the community. So I don't want to belabor the point, because we've got transfers to bitch about.
We have, yeah,
but
absolutely.
thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate it. That's nice.
No, absolutely. Listen, you're always welcome. Anytime. Listen, anytime promoting your charity is not time wasted. And if it's on a pod, you know what I mean? That's at the end of the day, that's such an important thing. And, we can sit here, we talk about transfers, which we're going to come on to next. But I think it's better to talk about the important things first, because when all's said and done, transfers is immaterial to something, what you're raising money for. That's what's important. But, going on to transfers, how do you assess and I suppose it's hard to assess the transfer window, because we've not done anything apart from Callum Chambers sneaking out the back door without no warning. He's kind of like I was saying to somebody earlier, I said Callum Chambers leaving Arsenal, the way it happened and nobody even knew about it. It was kind of like he was sneaking out at midnight to meet a girl. Do you know what I mean? And it's under the radar.
He doesn't have to sneak out at midnight to meet a girl. He is so handsome that girls, should have been just coming to him the whole time. But it's funny you mentioned Chambers. I've always had kind of a running. It's a running joke that's based on not so much of a joke with Sophie from the Highbury squad, where I've always said I thought Callum Chambers was kind of the quintessential perfect squad player for a Premier League club. Look, I've never said he should be a starter at any position, center back, right back, defensive mid. For a team like Arsenal, I think he could certainly do that for a team in the in the bottom of the division, as we saw for Fulham. But he's not the type of guy who's asking for 80, 90, 100,000 or plus in wages. He isn't the type of guy to argue with, with not getting regular playing time. When he is plugged in there to fill a gap, he tends to do quite well. When he's relied on for a long period of time as a starter, as we saw in the first couple games of this season, that's where we have problems. But but if you could do a lot worse than a guy who can play 3 positions pretty well at reasonable wages, who's still in his 20s and is a good servant to the club. And to see him go for virtually nothing, just basically because it didn't look like we were going to extend his contract and we wanted to save £1 million in wages, which is what his contract works out to between now and June 30th, is a little disappointing to me. But I'm not gonna go crazy about it, because if I had my way, we wouldn't see Chambers on the pitch for the next 5 months. It would only be, if something bad happened. So, but it's just weird. There's 2 reactions, Daniel. There's what do I think about the transfer window, and what do I think about what everyone else is thinking about the transfer window? Because those 2 things are very, very different.
Transfer window is crazy, and because we've not done anything as well, and I think that I see this transfer window one of 2 ways now. I think we're either having a mass clear out because we're going to bring one big name in, or we're just having a mass clear out and we're going to end up with what's left and we're going to struggle. That's
and it's bizarre because, like, look, the clear out last January 1st, when we had just kind of turned a corner against Chelsea and we're really still struggling. We were still in the bottom half of the table. Mike England asked where he went to. He went to Villa, Aston Villa. So at that point in time, I said, it is more important this January to get rid of bad eggs, to get rid of the clique in the dressing room, to just terminate contracts and get the crap out of the dressing room so that this team can move forward solidified together. And that's exactly what they did. Did we bring in we brought in Odegaard on loan, and we know that's the jury's still out on how we'll look on that 5-10 years from now, but certainly he's a player of quality. And the other 6 or 7 transactions were either contract terminations or loans or, people who we let go. And I was fine with that in that situation where, the season was such crap at that point. There was no chance at top 4, but we really needed to make an improvement in the second half or we were screwed. And we did. This January, little bit different story. I mean, yes, there are some contracts that have to be figured out. Some people leaving in the summer if we don't extend them, like Lacazette, like Chambers. But we're really, really threadbare. And not only that, but despite playing to where we peaked at 4th place and are in every way, shape, or form still really, really in with a chance of 4th place, if given our light schedule for the rest of the year, we've just absolutely allowed we're going to try to skate by, it appears, by the skin of our teeth with a threadbare lineup. And we've seen in that ascent from 20th place to 4th place how differently the team plays when we're playing, our second and third choice center backs, our second and third choice right backs, second and third choice midfielders. We've seen how the quality of the team declines over when we have our best 11 all fit and firing and ready to go. And it's just, there are 4 days left in the transfer window. I'm not going to rush to judgment and say we're not doing anything and that this is, we're letting people go without bringing anyone in. But I'm also hearing and seeing, as you and I both have from Charles Watts himself this week, that there isn't, other than his astute and correct, the Matt Turner signing at goalkeeper, but there's no outfield players that are really being rumored to come in. And, if that ends up being the case, it seems like a club who has every possibility of actually grabbing don't want to use the word trophy, but grabbing an outcome this year that most of us thought not possible, which is Champions League football next year. We're right there. We have the ability to do it. and we're going to try to tiptoe our way in instead of just blasting past the competition. And that could backfire so badly on this team if we end up in 7th or 8th as a result.
Yeah, we need we definitely need to get back in the Champions League. I actually think that having European football will massively improve our chances of improving the squad. But I do feel like we need a striker to do that. I think if you're going to let Aubameyang go, then we definitely need to bring somebody else in, because the problem is who's going to get the goals, because I don't see Eddie getting the goals. Lacazette's goals have dried up. A lot of people are calling for Pepe, but I'm not so sure.
Well, I mean, we from game 4 to how many games have we played? We got 17 left, so we played 21 games. So Premier League alone, from game 4 to game 21, the last 17 games, we've been one of the better teams in the league. I think the last 2 Premier League games we have 1 point out of 6. So maybe that, the Man City game, which was almost a moral victory, and and you hate saying that about it, but that was a good performance. And then the Burnley game, which just wasn't. But Premier League wise, we've shown that we can do the job against teams that we should be doing the job against. Leicester, Burnley once, Norwich twice, West Ham, Villa. I mean, we've shown that we can do that. So I think the bigger concern isn't that we don't. I mean, and that's with the striker situation pretty much being what it is right now. No different. I don't. To me, it's just that we're 1 injury away. We're 2 injuries away. We're 1 Granit Xhaka suspension or Gabriel suspension away from going from a from a European place team, a 4th to 6th place team, to a team that if they played that lineup all year would be 15th place. And I just don't, I understand the team wanting to get the right people to not end up with any of these bulky contracts that we're saddled with anymore. I understand we don't want to bring in people who are going to be, problems in the dressing room. And I like the fact, and I love the transfer window last summer, where we brought in individuals who seemed to fit the profile of the club and what we want to build, rather than just names that everyone's heard of and watch YouTube clips of.
Yeah.
But I mean, the number of people we've basically cast off without replacing, I mean, I honestly don't know. We have to name 18 people for Wolves. And if we don't add anybody in the rest of I mean, I can't even imagine those 18, there's going to be like 5 or 6 U23 players on there. It's insane right now. The actual lineup that we have, if we don't add more depth.
It's mad. It is total crazy. And you talk about Granit Xhaka's getting a red, and honestly, this month we've seen more reds than a tampon inside a woman's knickers. Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, seriously, what's going on?
What kind of show is this?
What? Honestly, hey mate, listen, it all happens on this show. Don't worry about that. Like, it just. But honestly, it's so true, though. It's so true. But what's going on with our disciplinary this month? Honestly, it's crazy. It's mad. And you're right. When you take away the first 11, our backup players are non-existent. Well, they're non-existent now because they're all getting sold, but they're not very good.
No, I think you were right the first time. They literally do not exist. That's non-existent. People who use that as kind of a way of insulting somebody's capabilities, but non-existent in the sense that, like, they're going to put up the sign to substitute people, and it's just going to have 1 number on it. Like, the person will be coming out, and no one will be going in for them. It'll be like when you have an injury and you've used all your subs already, and so you just have to take the guy off without replacing him. Except we won't have used any subs.
Yeah, I just have visions of Arteta on the touchline trying to make a sub. He said, "Listen, right, who's going to cut? Oh shit, I've got no one." Do you know what I mean?
I mean, Stuart McFarlane, the team photographer, is going to be playing for us before the end of the year at this rate.
Yeah, he's going to look right. He'll be like, "Can we employ Gunnosaurus again? Come on, Gunnosaurus, just do your thing."
He'd probably be able to get his head on one of those crosses that we've been sending in.
Yeah, he probably could.
I just realized this is my thing, Daniel. And if you're in the chat and you're like, this guy's, he's accepting this and doesn't take it seriously, or I mean, this is how I cope with, it's Schadenfreude, call it that if you want, call it gallows humor, which is my preference. I fully understand the situation we're in. I just don't have the wherewithal to just be that angry about it all the time. I mean, and look, to each to his own. You can have the opinion that you want to, but don't take my cavalier attitude about it, like I don't care and then I'm okay with 8th or okay with 6th. I mean, I still think we could finish 4th with the people that we have if we play well and disciplined and all the things that we haven't been doing in the last month. But and when the game comes on, I'll hope and root and pray that we do well. But I can't get that upset about it because we don't know how it's going to turn out yet. People freaking out right now. Some of our very good friends, Daniel, freaking out and ranting and raving about how clueless our transfer policy is. And while it does indeed look that way, there's still 4 days left in the transfer window. And as Chambers leaving has shown, not everybody has an idea on everything that's going on.
No, and that's it's. I think it's people hang on. People hang on. There's journalists, and then there's wannabe journalists, and people hang on that. And I think the thing is when you look beyond social. Yeah, then there's gerbils. Like that's a whole different story. Gerbils, but people cling on to every story, and social media, like, it does a lot of. I've never seen so much hysteria, and I'm one of the. No, I've got to be honest. I'm one of those people that does get mad, a little bit because we've seen this and maybe it's born out of the fact that when I think back to traveling to Brighton on a wet and windy day, getting literally blown down Brighton Centre trying to walk to the stadium, where you literally have to peel off all my clothes at the end of the day because they literally stuck to me, and the team puts in a performance like that. I think that's what a lot of people are getting at, when we spend all that money, time and travel. I know it's different for you over there in the States, Mike, because
it's a great point you're making.
Trying to get to every single game from the States, mate, that'd be a
No, yeah. Well, trust me. If I was home and away, and then like in between games coming back home in the States, I would probably be a lot more frustrated. But I have been home and away for stints, for a month at a time or 3 weeks at a time, and I say that only to highlight that I do know from personal experience and observation what you guys who go home and away do, like you, Daniel, and and a lot of people we know and a lot of people we don't know who make that trip every single week to go there for home games, and the 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 people that are on the away scheme or what used to be the away scheme that go away, and in no way, shape, or form. There's a lot of talk about don't minimize the international fan just because they don't live nearby. Well, don't minimize you don't have to like lionize and say that fans who go home away or who live near London and go to every game are better or worse. But let's not fail to recognize the sacrifice financially, the sacrifice in time, and maybe in some cases family that a lot of them make out of love for their club. And when you do that, you do feel probably more personally slapped in the face. And you could explain this better than I could, but I can imagine that some of those experiences, especially with what TV's doing with these rearranged games that cause you to have to get home at 2:00 in the morning because there's no trains, and I mean that when the club kind of takes the piss and doesn't seem to be trying hard enough, or if they do something that seems a little bit, let's call it capitalist and merchandising instead of focusing on winning, I do understand why that really hits home so much more. And I will say, for me from abroad, I wake up early, but it's to wake up early. I turn my television on, I watch, I'm drunk by 11 o'clock in the morning, which, that's my choice. But, I can kind of turn the TV off and go back to sleep if I don't like a result. I don't have a whole day of travel and dealing with trains and stuff. And so believe me, I do get it. And I empathize a lot with people who are upset over it. I'm just saying that, I just can't spend that much energy being upset.
And like you saying about the we have to sort of, with the people that travel home and away, I actually sympathize as well with the international audience, because I've been international when Arsenal are playing, and especially guys in Australia who get up at 4 a.m, like to listen to a game. I remember in 2020 being in Australia and we were playing Newcastle at 4:30 in the afternoon, and in Australia it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So I am, I do sort of sympathize, and it's hard. And I think from a fan's point of view, I don't think the club really appreciate the travel and expenses. And many a night that I've come back from the Emirates and I've not got home till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I've got up that very same day to get on another train to go to an away game. Like, honestly, it's mad.
Yeah, no, and I have said, I know this is kind of a different version of the conversation than you started with, but I have said that because we've seen, I have friends, people I know here in the States who have had kind of gone viral in the sense of getting brought over by the Premier League to watch an Arsenal game because of the person crying when they first saw the Arsenal team in Charlotte when they came in 2019. She's a lovely person, an incredible giving person who truly loves Arsenal, and but it raises the whole question of, well, they value the international fans more than they value the day-to-day, the home and away, and the people nearby. And it's almost flipped over. And I agree with that. The club is in the globalization of this world where football has truly gone global. Acquiring a new fan from abroad is more valuable than maintaining a fan from London. And that's upsetting to me. It's unfortunate because the club does tend to seem to know that and act on that. And, generationally, you're going to end up seeing a fan base that isn't, there isn't like a heartbeat of it anymore. It's just, it's like kind of Manchester United have become, where, the club may be rich and doing well, but they aren't really the local. There's no heart to it anymore, and the Arsenal way gets lost in that as well, which is very important to me. But I absolutely, positively think that the club should be doing more for the day-to-day. The day-to-day shouldn't, fans shouldn't have to decide whether they're better fans or worse fans or call themselves or that or be upset that foreign fans are being celebrated, because they should also be celebrated. And I think we need much, much more of that in this club.
Yeah. I've just got a question here, which I missed earlier when we were talking about Granit Xhaka and the red cards. Russ says, question for Mike. Do you think that the fact that we've had so many red cards is a disciplinary procedure with the players, or do you think the refs target Arsenal?
The easy answer to that question is yes. Yes to both parts of that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you look at the red cards that we're getting, or the second yellows that we're getting, it's hard to argue too many of them. If we're talking just about penalties, that's one thing. But if we're talking about red cards, there's always something to the red cards, with the exception of, in my mind, that David Luiz one against Wolves last year. That was just ridiculous and insanity. But we're not being called for phantom cards. So yeah, there's a lack of discipline for sure. And it's weird because the one thing that I like about, not the one thing, but one of the main things I like about this process, quote unquote, that Mikel Arteta is going through is that it does seem geared towards kind of the overall discipline and togetherness of the team. And that should be harmonizing. It shouldn't be promoting running around, sticking your feet out at people. And I mean, Thomas Partey the other day, that was just, that was, whether the first one was a yellow or not, the second one certainly was. And so, yeah, it's bad discipline. But by the same token, we're not getting the benefit of the doubt in any case whatsoever from referees. And it goes so far as to the fact that no one else is getting reds against us. I mean, how many times has Sadio Mane, should have been kicked out of games, and not Lee Westwood, he's a golfer, but Westwood from Burnley, and I mean those calls are almost never called in our favor as far as reds are concerned. So we get too many red cards. People playing against us don't get enough, and it's one of those trends that's almost impossible to dig out of, because it's so entrenched in the refereeship right now. And if our players are tiptoeing around trying not to go in too hard because they just know we're going to get a red, that's going to hurt us on the pitch too.
Yeah, definitely. And I was saying to Charles yesterday on the pod, I was saying that, do you know what? Actually, I wonder what would have happened this month. And we always talk about this month being the month where we've really struggled. And I said to Charles yesterday, I said, you know what? I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't have got that red card and Martinelli had buried that open goal chance. How things would have been different, And I said yesterday that
against City,
it's the fine margins, and this month the fine margins haven't gone our way.
What month have they?
Yeah.
Name me a month where the fine margins have gone our way. I mean, we've had good months. That doesn't mean, but the we've just overcome the fine margins. Yeah. That Martinelli chance, you'd love to see that buried. If the referee wasn't,
in his way,
piggyback ride on him at the time. But
I was like,
he should have buried that. The red card is questionable. We could have finished off City, or at least had one of our best draws against a world-class side in a long, long time. And things might have been different, but the very next time we came out, even after that uplifting performance, was Forest. We weren't going to have Gabriel probably play in that game anyway, and we crapped the bed against them. So, I just don't know. I don't know what to make of the inconsistency anymore. But we've had these kinds of months in March before, where like all of a sudden we're no longer in the FA Cup, we're no longer in the Champions League, and we're playing for fourth place. But in January, it's pretty dire to be in that position. We literally have nothing but Premier League games left, and it's not even February yet.
Yeah, so it's mad. One game a week, and some months like February, you don't. I think we've only got 2 games.
Yeah, we've got like 20 weeks, 18 or 20 weeks left before the end of May, and we've got 17 games to play.
It's mad. It's absolutely mad.
Which I think maybe. Daniel, let me ask you this: do you think that plays into? I would hate to think that this is the case, but I also can't deny that it might be. Our wage bill. We're paying players money every week, whether there's a game or not. And sometimes there's 2 games, but we pay them on a weekly basis. Over an annual amount over 52 weeks. And contracts roll over at the end of June. So we've got 5 months left in this cycle. And 17 games, not 20, not 25, possibly rising to 30, depending on how we do in the cups and Europe and all that. We've had from January to May, maybe in the years past where we've played in the Europa League, we might have had 25 games to 30 games to play. This year we have 17. You pay the same amount of money to players, whether they're playing 17 games or 30. But do you think that it's possible that KSE is like, we just don't want to be paying players that, we think we can play the same 11 every week or the same 13 or 14 every week. Why carry 25 first team players all making 30, 40, 50, 80, 100, 150 grand on our payroll? Let's just save money now and then go in huge in the summer without realizing the fact that if you miss out on fourth.
Yeah. I actually look at it one of two ways, and I've seen conflicting reports today that KSE aren't happy with Arteta and Edu's management when it comes to dealing with players like Aubameyang. See, I'm in the camp with Aubameyang and with Arteta. I'm in the camp that Arteta was well within his rights to discipline him. Do I think completely exiling him from the team and not giving him a way back is wrong? I think maybe he should, if we're not going to bring him back into the squad, then we should definitely have a plan to bring in a striker. I think the fact that we're lowering the wage bill could be a sign that they're going to sanction one player, and I think it will be the striker position. I don't think the midfield position, yes, it's a need to strengthen, and of course we need to strengthen it, but I don't think right now the midfield is a priority because you've got Thomas Partey back, you've got Granit Xhaka back, El Neni's coming back soon from AFCON. You've obviously got Lokonga there, whereas the striker, we need somebody who's going to get us goals. And we saw it against Burnley. We had a couple of chances, clear-cut chances, where if we had a striker that was going to get us goals, we might have won that game. But because obviously Aubameyang hasn't been in great form either. But if we had someone of Aubameyang to bring on, then we might have won that game. So I do think the club, whether they'll do it in January, I'm not so sure. I don't actually think. I think it's tricky, but you never know. This Callum Chambers thing come out the window, didn't it? No one expected that, and
I don't think we're going to be able to unload Aubameyang, and I think that is, and the fact that his wages are on our books is a reason why the club are not going to bring in a significant profile striker. Arteta's love affair with Eddie Nketiah, I don't get, but it doesn't seem to be waning. He doesn't seem to, he does do this though. He like falls in love with players and keeps sticking them in when they shouldn't be stuck in. And then finally he reaches his tipping point, like he did with Willian, where it's, and even with Pablo Mari, where it's like, okay, I'm not playing you anymore. You're gone. And he's reached that with Pepe, apparently prematurely to many people, but it's, and as far as the Aubameyang thing is concerned, 100% should discipline the guy. What I don't know is the depth and the significance of what the problems are between the two of them. If it's routinely being late and not taking the leadership role seriously, then stripping him of the captaincy and playing him when it suits and not automatically as the first name on the team sheet would probably be enough discipline. To me, you just can't say he's unreasonable in freezing Aubameyang out of the club because you don't know what's happened, and you don't know the depth of what's happened between them, whether there's a power play going on, if he's trying to undermine the club. This, as much as I didn't see it coming, this could be another Ozil situation where not just him underperforming for his salary once he renewed his contract, but actively disrupting the team. We just don't know. There's a reason he's not in Dubai, and it's not because he was late. That's all I can tell you. It's not because he was late twice. So, but the problem is, you do have then what Lacazette, Nketiah, and a currently out of position Martinelli. I know he's played there before and he can play there before, but you almost lose his defensive work rate when you play him at the 9. So I don't really want to see that. And you're right, it is a problem. It's a substantial problem, but if there's a rift between, I mean, I've heard that the banning of Aubameyang came from the Cronkies and not from Arteta. So it's no one knows.
Yeah,
no one
knows.
I need to talk to Josh Kroenke again and figure out what's going on there, because
I need to get Josh Kroenke on here, to be fair.
It's been 2.5 years since we talked to him in Denver, and just about everything he said to us that day has proven not to come to fruition. So we get a renewal here on that.
I need to get him on here to listen. I'm gonna be pushing for that when I see him next at the board meeting. That's gonna be
tell him those podcasters that he met in Denver said hi.
I will do. I definitely. I wonder as well if the club are looking, and this is a gamble, and this is nothing, and I know once I say what I'm about to say, people are gonna go, "You're talking bollocks. This ain't ever gonna happen," which is usually the case. I usually do talk bollocks, and it doesn't happen. But I wonder if the club are waiting for the summer with better options in the striking department that are going to come available.
Well, there will always be. There's always going to be. I mean, like going to the transfer window in January is like going to the grocery, and there's only one aisle. And then over the summer, you go into the massive Sainsbury and the Costco, and pretty much everything's available for a price, and everything's moving and shifting around. There's no question about that, and it's easier, and there's a much wider range of possibilities in the summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, last year and the year before, which I think was the year where they came out and says all we can do is loans in January. Those situations where we cleared out more than we brought in, and we loaned instead of buying players, all that kind of made sense, because at the time we were 12th in the table, 13th in the table. The year before that, we were probably in the high top half of the table, or the low top half of the table, and again, it was 2 less years of being out of Europe and becoming less attractive to transfers, having bigger losses. This is different though, because you might be able to bring in the players you want over the summer. We might have our targets on a massive summer of like 3 or 4 really, really top names, but if we're not in the Champions League, are we going to be able to convince them to come? And B, we have the difference of 80 million pounds or 100 million pounds of being in Europe versus not being in the Champions League. It's attainable at this point. If we were in 13th place right now, I would be like, okay, this is just another lost season. Don't get relegated. We're shit. And we need to reload with players like we did last year, who, they don't fancy being in Europe, but they want to be part of this year, but they want to be part of a return to glory Arsenal, and let's do it. But if we lose Europe, and when I say Europe, I mean the Champions League, if we lose that, and that money and that prestige and that return to, that okay, we're on our way back type of message, because we didn't do anything in January, it boggles my mind. I wouldn't. Yeah. I just wouldn't understand that, because if we lose that because we just can't score a goal, if we lose that because we're playing second-rate players, that will come down to really be a flashpoint in this rebuild. Because so far, up until the beginning of January, I thought this rebuild and the situation was all trending in the right direction, and it, 1 month doesn't derail that, but 1 month and a failure to bolster the squad while losing players who, while not starters, not long-term Arsenal players in anyone's opinion, at least don't leave us so short. And it could be the difference between winning and losing games against Newcastle, between winning and losing games against Brighton in the second half of the season and Palace. And if it's the difference between winning and losing those games, then we might find ourselves in 7th or 8th again.
Yeah, and that is the concern. I mean, I just wonder if the club as well have just gone, and this is what I would do if I was Arteta, because January, what striking options are there out there? Because when I look at the striker position, and I always say, you know, we don't want to get a player like you take Aubameyang, for instance. We signed him up to a new contract and it's kind of not worked out. We don't want to spend big money on a player and then it not work out. So I look at
Chris Wood was available.
Yeah. I look at the striking options that are available now. I look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Listen, I like him. I think
is he available?
Be a great addition.
Is he available in January? I don't think so.
Is he going to come in January? Are Everton going to sell him? Because they're in a mess right now. I look at Alexander Isak. Again, I like him as a player, but then when you look at his stats are no different to Aubameyang's. So you might as well, instead of spunk 70 million on Isak, where his stats are the same, yeah, you've probably got a bit more of a player there because he's only young, so he can develop and you can improve him. But it's a risk to take with 6 months to go, less than 6 months to go in the season, and you've got we're 2 points off top 4. I actually think, and if I was Arteta, I would reintegrate Aubameyang till the end of the season, then let him go at the end of the season, because either way you've lost money. You're going to lose money because of the high amount of wages he's on. And then in the summer, look at the striking options, because there'll be a lot more options in the summer. Like there'll be a whole heap of options in the summer.
Yeah, you look at a lot more options in the summer, but
look at the options we'll have in the summer. We'll have Calvert-Lewin, we'll have Isak if you really want to go down that route. You've got if
Haaland and Mbappe will be free.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say. I'm glad you said that, because I know if I mentioned that, people will be like, "You're talking bollocks." But the thing is, I'll say this, right? Yeah, if we're going to spunk 75 million on Vlahovic, obviously it's not happening now because he's gone to Juventus, and we're going to drop 75 million, 60 million on Isak. Why not drop 100 million on Haaland?
Because then you have to pay him 750 grand a week. That's the reason.
Yeah. But if you're in, this is the thing, right? If you're in I don't even know how much he's on at Dortmund. He must be on quite high wages.
The issue isn't what he's on at Dortmund; it's what he's going to be on with his next team, and
with his next team.
That's what matters.
And I'm not saying this could ever happen. And everybody in the chat, don't get it wrong, right? But when you listen, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to stoke a fire that isn't even a fire, but I'm just saying that you look at Haaland, and all the stuff I've been reading about Haaland is he doesn't go for the money like Vlahovic. I always felt with Vlahovic that he was someone that actually wanted to go and be a star, but he wanted to be a star before he actually proved himself. I look at Haaland, and I think that he goes where he feels comfortable with the project. I always feel like even, he's turned down Real Madrid. He's turned down.
Has he?
Yeah. In the summer, he turned down Real Madrid. When you talk to Fabrizio and when you see all Fabrizio, he's turned down Real Madrid. He's turned down what was the other club he turned down as well? I think he turned down Barcelona.
Well, in City, we're saying that we can't afford him.
I think,
which is
ridiculous. I know he's turned down big clubs. He turned down big clubs in the summer. He's like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to go to a bigger club. So like he'll always go where the project suits him. And I just wonder, and I'm probably looking into it, I actually wonder if this board and if this board have got anything about them, I would go in the
Odegaard, get
summer.
in there.
No, not even that. In the summer, not now, because there's no chance now. But in the summer, where's the harm in dropping 100 million on Dortmund on Dortmund's doorstep and saying, "Listen, we want Haaland. If it fails, it fails." But it's ambition, isn't it? It's like,
and we don't know that those contacts haven't been made. I mean, those contacts don't get made through the media. If they talk to Haaland's people and they basically say whatever club Haaland plays for next, he's going to be on 500 grand a week. 500 grand a week is 52 million pounds every single year. So it's 100 plus 52 times 5 if it's a 5-year contract. That becomes 350 million pounds on one player. For reference, Pepe, they overspent on was 72 million in transfer fees, and I think he's on maybe 80,000 a week, or no, maybe 120 or something like that a week. That's about, over the course of his 5-year contract, that's about 100 million pounds. So I don't see it happening. There's only a handful of clubs that generally will do that, but I share your desire to, and it's not like there isn't any kind of connection. I mean, he likes playing with Odegaard, but if it were up to him and him alone, I bet you he would do it. But there's way too many people involved. There's ownership of the player. There's
I don't see it happening either, but I hear from, and it was said at the last board meeting and after the board meeting when I got to have a conversation with Josh, all I'm hearing is from the ownership and from Vinay and all those guys is that, we want to be at the top table in Europe. We want to be back at the top table. We want to be in that discussion. I'm saying this, right?
I want to be in the Playboy Mansion, but I'm waiting for my.
You want to be in that discussion, then put yourselves in that discussion. Like, I'm not saying Haaland will ever happen, and realistically, it probably won't. But just be in that discussion. Be at that table. You might not win. You might not. We're at the table with Vlahovic. We spent the whole month chasing after a player that clearly didn't want to come. Why not do it to Haaland? I bet there's a conversation to be had.
Do it, but don't put everything else on pause while you're doing it, because that's what happened with Suarez. That's what happened with Higuain later that summer. It was just like we honestly do. We present as though we have no idea what we're doing, and I know that we have more of an idea that what we're doing than most people give us credit for. This summer, I think you can point to a renewed. We did some smart things. But it just
do you know the ironic
look like we have any idea what we're doing. We really don't.
Yeah, I had to laugh when you mentioned Higuain there, because I saw a tweet from somebody yesterday, I think it was a couple of days ago, saying, the Vlahovic rumors remind me of the time we went to sign Higuain. I learned all summer how to spell it, only to realize it was spelled Sonogo.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw that as well. It's
honestly, I was just, when you said Higuain, I was like, that I've just got to mention that. That is
we've hit some good. We've made some good deals. We really have, but we have missed out. Presumably, who knows what we're missing out on, what we're not missing out. But it's just it appears so incompetent, and that is one reason why. And again, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it will be very interesting to watch that Amazon documentary this summer. I mean, I wish they would do. There's something called Hard Knocks here in the United States. It's a behind the scenes documentary on the NFL, on an NFL team, and it's normally done just before the season starts. But they did one this year with the Indianapolis Colts while the season was going on, and they release it weekly. So it's like a week behind, but like you get to see the stuff that's going on. It's killing me that we have to wait. I mean, we've been on a roller coaster this season where it was like everything looks awful, then all of a sudden everything comes together, good feelings, and then everything gets bad again. It's like, I mean, Amazon have hit the jackpot with this year, but I wish we didn't have to wait until it was all over, because I actually think if it was coming out if there was that level of transparency all along, and we were seeing what was happening, not in real time, but in almost real time, there would be more of a reaction of Arsenal wanting to have the story end happily. I mean, you really think they want the end of the Amazon documentary that being dropping out of Europe because they had the photographer playing at center back? I mean,
I'm worried about this Amazon documentary, and I'm worried because are we gonna see good stuff? Like, and
yeah,
I get the feeling, and I've been told this by people at the club, that Arsenal are censoring a lot of stuff. Like
that was the concern, but
yeah, I honestly, so from what I've been told is that they have an episode. They had an episode already done, and I'm probably going to get fucking shot for saying this, but
breaking news.
They watched it. Yeah, they watched it, and some of the stuff had to be taken out, and then they were happy with it. So I wouldn't pin your hopes on seeing stuff. I think we're just going to see what the club wants us to see. And I hate to be, I hate to sort of be the bearer of bad news.
And that would be disappointing because, you know, I watched the whole Spurs one, and I got to say that if I'm Spurs, there's a lot of that stuff I don't really want to be on there. So all of that to say that I don't think Spurs necessarily got or implemented the ability to edit and shine themselves up in it all that great. And if Arsenal does and uses that, and it becomes kind of a look, guys, we tried video, that's going to be disappointing, but that in and of itself will be pretty revealing. And we see where we are. But like, I mean, what they can't spin is how the results on the pitch between now and May and the personnel that were available for those games plays out. They're not going to CGI in a bunch of extra players into the dressing room that we don't have, to make it look like they didn't shit the bed by not signing anybody. They're not. I mean, they're not going to fudge the scores. Can you imagine the episode where we beat Chelsea in the second half of the season 3-1, and then everyone like looks back and they're like, "No, we lost that game 3-1." Then they just edit it to make it look like we won the game.
I think we're going to see some stuff. I mean, Josh was saying to me, Josh Kroenke was saying to me after the board meeting, he was saying he went into the canteen there and picked up a I think it was one of them salt things, where you get your salt out, and inside it was a hidden camera. So I think we are going to see stuff. Yeah, honestly, it's mad. Like they were just saying that there's camera and microphones in them, and I think we are going to see some stuff. But I think it's gonna.
When I went into Highbury House with you that one time, I had a camera buried in my anus, but that was just for my personal. That had nothing to do. That had nothing to do with the documentary.
Yeah. Well,
that was just me having a good time,
I don't think Josh Kroenke is going to be looking in your anus. Go, oh, Mike, you got a camera there. What's going on?
We're like this. We're very close together.
This is why, guys. This is why you can only have Mike on a late night chat.
It's I mean, you're the one, you started it, but yeah, it'll be interesting. And again, I bring up the documentary just because normally this kind of thing goes on and everyone overreacts or properly reacts. Everyone reacts strongly. Let me put it that way. I don't mean to say overreacts, even if that might be my opinion at times. Strongly reacts to things that we just don't know enough about, but we can only react to the things that we can see because we don't know about them. So, if we don't know that the club reached out to 40 people and almost had deals done and that something, got in the way, we don't know all the facts. So we have to speculate. And unfortunately, when you speculate, you also presume a lot of things to be true that may not be. and you use those things that may not be true to get mad or happy or sad or defensive or angry about the club. And it's just this vicious circle that goes on year after year after year, which is why, you know, you become numb to it after a while, or at least I think you should become numb to it a little while, because otherwise, you know, what other parts of your life are suffering as a result of all the focus and attention being spent on being angry that we didn't get Vlahovic, you know, and your whatever reason you feel that we didn't get Vlahovic that may or may not be true, just as an example. So, you know, this is a really crazy, annoying, nutty time of year, and I'm glad it's going to be over in 4 days. I pray that it's over in 4 days with some hope, some improved hope right now, because right now, if the window shuts and slams shut right now, I think we may have thrown away a chance to solidify fourth place.
Yeah.
I hope to be wrong about that, because if we can nip fourth place with the squad that we have for the next 17 games, then it's a masterstroke. It's a masterstroke in hindsight, because we did it and cleared up money, and now and can go and have, you know, presumably a madness over the summer and really put in a charge for you know, the title, top two, you know, far in Europe, whatever, for next season. It'll be a masterstroke, but you know, in war, when you're close to defeating the opponent, and in this case the opponent is getting into the Champions League, when you're close to defeating the opponent, you don't pull back and try to just go one-on-one with them. You try to slaughter them and finish them off. And right now it feels like we're right at the precipice. We're right about to you know, to have an opportunity to win the war, and we're going to try to just pull out enough to try to sneak by. And, you know, 5 years we've been out of Europe, out of the Champions League. You can't afford to just take that kind of chance and then make it 6, 7, 8, because then we're just mid-table, and that's it. If we're not, already.
No, definitely, and hopefully when the window I like the transfer window, but I hate all the hysteria. Like, we get linked to a player and everyone's Googling his stats, and it's like, oh, this player, and I'm like, just.
That's why I created an ITK account to specifically mock and focus and take the piss out of people who just like ITKs. Now, you mentioned something earlier in this podcast, and then we kind of went off on a tangent. So most people know, some people don't, that, you know, when the bell was ringing a lot last year, and before that, the Mole, I created an account called the Football Gerbil, and the Gerbil, as me, does know some things that are going on behind the club. Just like, you know, you know some stuff, I know some stuff, I know people who know some stuff. So I did break some interesting news when it came to Raul Sanllehi, and suddenly the Gerbil became a go-to for a lot of people for transfer news, which was it played exactly into my entire point, which is, why are you listening to gerbils and birds and moles and bells, you know, when true trained journalists with access like Charles Watts and Chris Wheatley and James McNicholas and Amy Lawrence and that lot, when they, and David Ornstein, when they know a lot more than we do, and they still don't know everything that's going on. None of them reported Chambers leaving. Watts said, I'm very surprised to even hear that it happened. So, you know, why would you be listening to you know, a mongoose on Twitter? Yet I've just did a podcast at 10 o'clock UK tonight, where about an hour before the podcast, I tweeted out from the Gerbil's Twitter account that the Gerbil and the bell, and by the way, here's the bell, guys. That's the bell anyway. I didn't say it was the bell. I said it was the bell. I didn't say it was the AFC bell. I just said it was the bell. I'm holding up my Arsenal bell, by the way, Daniel. And we were finally going to go face to face and talk about all the transfer incoming news. And I promoted it like once, an hour in advance. I get to the podcast, and I can see that there's about 60 people waiting before I started the stream.
Yeah, there was loads.
Now, if you know, you and I, Daniel, we podcast. I mean, I don't know what your long range plans is, but we do it in our free time. We're not doing it. We're not able to do it every day, like Tom Canton and Sophie, who put so much
Yeah.
work into it and
I'd
deserve
love
all the
to.
listeners.
That's my ambition. That's why I'm banging
Well,
out all
and
this
it's a
content.
worthy ambition. And it takes a lot of work
Yeah.
to get there. I don't have I have a job and a family, and I just can't do that. So I pod for fun. We don't even monetize our pods. My point is, we podcast as a hobby. We do it in an interesting way. I think we try to provide good, enjoyable content and great guests. And yet, because we are not on a big platform, we don't, our podcasts generally get 300 to 400 views overall, and usually anywhere from 25 to 50 people in the chat at any one time. And to me, numbers are just a function of interaction. The more people you have in the pod, the more interaction you get, the better the pod is. It's not about money because we don't monetize. It's not that. So it's so annoying yet funny and weird that I start this podcast and the numbers jump up to, I think it peaked at about 120 live viewers. Half of them were regulars of ours who knew the deal, and the other half were people that were just there because they couldn't go another minute without transfer news. It doesn't matter whether it's accurate or not. They have to hear from the Bell. They have to hear from Jerby. And it's just, if you're one of those people right now and you're in this chat, I apologize. But it just goes to show you that people want buzz. They don't, and I wish there was more people following good content, but to have, 60 people waiting when normally it's 5 or 10, simply because I've promised transfer news. Oh, and then I just sat there quiet for 35 minutes while I put up pictures and highlights, because frankly, the amount that I spoke on that podcast was the amount of information that should really be discussed about incoming transfers, because either there's no information or there's nothing going on. So
yeah, no, it is. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. It is mad. And it goes like that, it's so bizarre. Like, I've done a stream with a guest and I've been like, it's going to be loads of people, and there's not been that many. And then there's a stream where what was it? I done a show the other week about all the stuff that went on with DT, and that got 3,000 views. I done a stuff.
That's the other thing. I mean,
and then my show with Charles Watts is nearly at 500. I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's
going on is that this is what sells on YouTube, and I'll tell you what I have learned, and this is, I'm going to tell you what I hope for you, because you are aspiring and preparing and putting in the time and the work, whereas I admittedly don't really want to, but I do it for fun. There's two ways of getting traction and success on YouTube that I've envisioned. I thought there was one, and then it was proven that there were two. The one is sensationalism. We've seen it, and I am not providing my opinion one way or the other on Arsenal Fan TV, but we've seen it with Arsenal Fan TV, similar fan channels, generally with content that is explosive or cutting, or or brings in people who have had notoriety through those, such as a show about DT, a show with troops, a show with another controversial figure. Those will spike because you're going to have people who come by because they follow those things. But what has been really nice to see over the last year to 2 years is a second type of podcast growth, and I'll name two, and I've already named them. Tom Canton. Actually, I'll name three: Tom Canton, Craig with Same Old Arsenal, and Sophie with the Highbury Squad, Sophie and Kevin. Their growth comes from providing regular content every single day, if possible, reliably, building a community, having new people find them out, and doing good, interesting content with interesting people and originality. And so that, to me, if you're on that track, if you get that regularity, if you get yourself, if you continue to get good guests and good entertaining concepts and good conversation, it will come, because that's what people really look for in a podcast, and unfortunately we just don't do it frequently or regularly enough, or maybe good enough. But I'm happy to be part of your regenerated energy, I think, on podcasting, because you certainly have a good insight and good connections as well.
Yeah, no, and it's weird you say that, regenerated energy, because it has been like that. So
it seemed to me like it was. I mean, when we saw each other in London a few months ago, I don't think you were doing podcasts on the regular.
Yeah, do you know what it was? So I went to a stage, and I realized it's probably not as entertaining for the viewers, but it might be. But I went through a
Why
stage
can't we sign a new striker? God damn.
Yeah. Why can't we sign a new striker?
So we wouldn't lose anybody.
But I went through a phase where I was like, I've grown my channel, and then I went through months where it didn't grow at all. I was like, is this it? I've reached my limit. And then I lost, when everything opened up with the COVID pandemic, because I started my channel right before the pandemic hit. So it's probably the best time to do a channel, because everybody's in lockdown and people are watching content. And then when life got back to normal, I got so busy, and I was like, I haven't got time to do this. And then it got to December, and I was like, do you know what? I'm really going to start the new year. It's going to be a new me, new year, new me, the channel's going to be the same. I'm going to really get stuck into the channel. And I always say now, I said, this year is my breakout year, my breakout year for the channel growing and really pushing on. It's absolutely mad.
If you build it, they will come. You just keep putting in the effort and the time, and make sure that you're doing it out of enjoyment, and you'll be good, man. And you have our support in any way possible, because you're a good person who loves the Arsenal and has interesting insights. So I'm here for the ride, man.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. And we've had a bit of every conversation in this chat. Listen, appreciate all the 11 people that have stayed watching, especially at this time of night. It's been absolutely crazy. But Mike, just tell everybody what's coming up recently on your podcast, and obviously the link, guys, is in the title, so you can actually just click on that and it will take you straight to the Gooners podcast.
Yep. Thanks, Daniel. If you want to follow either of our endeavors, the podcast is at the Gooners Pod on Twitter and Instagram. The charity is at Gooners v Cancer on Twitter and Instagram. And make sure to go check out goonersvcancer.com for the raffle that's going on right now, which is just absolutely an insane piece of Arsenal memorabilia. I'll be maybe doing something from Gooner Gras. It's not just American, but it's in America. We get a huge gathering of Arsenal supporters and Gooners from around the world who all come to New Orleans a couple weeks before Mardi Gras.
Are you going this year?
I'm going this year.
Yeah.
Every year they have it, I go, because it is a fun time.
I was gutted as well, because right last year I'd planned to go to Gooner Gras. My friends.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was looking forward to it last year,
my friends who was traveling with me pulled out, and I was like, well, fuck it. I was like, I don't really want to fucking go to Gooner Gras on my own, so I pulled out. So next year I'm definitely fucking.
Well, last year it got canceled anyway because of COVID.
Yeah,
so
No, it wasn't. It was this year. I was meant to go this year.
Oh, this year.
I had it planned in the summer. I was sort of like, well, let me know. But then they pulled out, and I was like, well, I can't fucking. I mean, I have been to places on my own, but I was like, you really need to go with people to go to Gooner Gras to really enjoy it. And I was like, I'm definitely. It's one of my ambitions to get Gooner Gras.
No, it'll be fun, and it's
maybe next year.
Starts 2 weeks from today, the very day of the next Arsenal game, as a matter of fact, and we might be doing a podcast from there on the Gooners podcast. So yeah, just tune in see what we're up to. And I'm sure you'll see Daniel on our channel at some point soon as we go through our rotation. And we can also you can see our post game show. We do an open mic post game show after just about every game. And you can follow that by going to GoonerWatch.com. Sometimes it appears on Lee Judge's TV. Sometimes it appears on our channel. You might see it on the Highbury Squad. It's kind of a traveling show, if you will, but you can always watch it after the game, an hour after the game ends, at GoonerWatch.com. And you can participate and come on air at GoonerOpenMic.com. So I'm the king of links, basically, is what we're talking about here. I've purchased every link that there is possible to purchase, and now it's just, there's no more. I don't have enough time to podcast while I'm buying all these links.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, guys, do go and check that out. Really good stuff. And I'm not even entirely sure what's going on what content I've got coming up, because there's no game. Usually it's preview time or review time. There's no obviously transfers, and there's not really much going on. I was actually contemplating, and I haven't decided yet. I was contemplating doing a watch along for the WWE Royal Rumble. It was something that was floating around my periphery just to pass the time. So that might be happening if I can.
I could be around for that.
If I that is a possibility. Doing a WWE watch along, everyone, because I've got quite a few WWE fans here in my subscribers, and I was thinking of they've all said do a watch along, and I was
that's the other thing I do. I go to WWE and AEW shows in the Washington DC area and represent
and wave your Arsenal signs. I saw that. That was, everyone was mad. It's like, who's the Arsenal fan at AEW? I saw that. I was like, there's Mike. And I saw you
love Twitter exploding both positively and negatively. It's just it's hilarious. I can't get enough of doing that. I know it's dumb. I know it's childish. I know all the things that you can tell me to insult me about both going to those events and holding up signs. But I don't care. I'm having a good time. So F you.
Yeah. But so yeah, I might be doing that. And I was meant to do Crown Jewel. I was gonna do. I even got the thumbnail for Crown Jewel, and then it got to about 4 or 5 o'clock, and I was like, I can't be asked. Like, it was when I was going through my.
Yeah, because these events, that's when you guys have to be inconvenienced to watch them instead of the Arsenal games for us. I'm like, wow, you guys. There were people tweeting about my signs at what must have been 2:30 in the morning in the UK. When I was at the live event last week. And that's not that unusual. We do that for Arsenal, so.
But no, I'm thinking about doing a WWE watch along. I think, and the Royal Rumble build up to WrestleMania, it's gonna be good. So I might do it. If I can find a guest, because talking for 1 to 4, that's gonna be
that could be tough.
If I do that solo, that's gonna be fucking. I'm gonna trust me. Doing the Arsenal watch along solo is bad enough, and I've done a few of them. But do WWE one. But yeah, I'm thinking about it. I am thinking about it, because the thing is, I can do transfer news, but there's not really a lot going on. And obviously Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't really want to do all that. And then Monday is deadline day, which I've got my big stream from 5 p.m. UK time to deadline closes. I'm going to try and get a few guests on. I need to start figuring that shit out, actually, because it's getting time. But yeah,
I don't mean to counter program against you, but we're thinking about. I mean, we normally pod at Monday night at 10 o'clock. When is the transfer deadline? Is it 11 p.m. UK?
Yeah, 11 p.m.
We normally pod at 10. We might have to change that because every podcast is going to be live at 10. But if the Gooners podcast does a transfer window show, you can be assured that it will not be like any of the other transfer window shows. It will be. There'll be more piss taking in that show than you would have at the bathrooms outside of section 30, block 32 at the Emirates. I mean,
Yeah,
It'll just be a
it's-
show of total piss taking. So
No, that's good. That's good. Listen, variety is the spice of life.
exactly, we won't be
yeah.
on from 5 p.m. to 11, though. I can assure you that.
It is.
So watch Daniel Bailey.
Yeah, I always do it. I always go on 5 to 11 because I did the first and I realized this is a really long ending to the show. But the first deadline day I'd done a whole day, like literally. I went from 9:30 in the morning. This is right when I started my channel. I think I was just over 1,000 subs, but I went from 9:30 in the morning to 11 at night. And the only break I had was to walk the dog, and Claude took the show while I was out walking the dog. That's the only break I had.
As someone who's done a 24-hour pod before, for Gooners versus Cancer, I can tell you it is not easy. So
it's not easy.
Whatever reason you're doing it, whatever occasion you're doing it, keeping focus for that long is not something that comes naturally to people.
I got to 11 p.m. and my eyelids were like, someone must have nailed my eyelids together. I was that tired, like literally. I was getting to that point, and it was the window where they were announcing Thomas Partey. So we were like, come on, just announce it. And we were like, and then the Arsenal released that little crappy video, like underwhelming. It's just, and I was like, I waited an extra half an hour for that.
There are some things in life that you wait for, you anticipate, and they're not what you think they're going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So, welcome to Arsenal Football Club.
I hope losing your Daniel Bailey TV virginity has lived up to his expectations.
Oh man, I am raw and sore and yeah, it's been great. It's been everything I hoped for, and I'm happy to have done it.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's been a pleasure. Well, listen, guys, that is the end of the show. Do hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. The Gooners podcast link is in the title, so do go and check that out. Listen, massive thank you to everybody in the chat who's actually watched this and watch this live as well. I appreciate you all. I'm sure there'll be lots of people that watch this on playback and think, what the fuck have I just watched? Which is usually
I hope
what
it makes
people
more.
say.
I hope it magically makes more sense on playback than it did live. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think we followed the discussion and went where it went. So
Yeah, definitely. It was we're like a bent taxi driver. We go around the houses and now we're at our destination. But listen, guys, all take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Well, it's actually a new day. This the crossover from day to day, but that's great. But listen, all look after yourselves, and I'll be back soon. Take care, guys.